Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you're all keeping very well. This week I'm going to paint something quite different. Well, not different, it's going to be a sunset, but I've got so many great comments on a post I put up of a seascape. It's not a seascape actually, it's just a sunset with frames of a window and windows looking out into the sunset. So the windows actually painted on the canvas as well. I thought it might make a nice subject. A lot of you were asking me to try a tutorial on this. So I have behind me a nice big canvas. I'm going to paint a beautiful sunset and then the lovely white windows opening, looking out into the sunset. I think that might make a nice little subject for you to try. It's very eye-catching. I also have a frame made for it as well. So what I'm going to do with the frame, the timber frame, it's a floating frame. It's a very thin frame. I don't know if I can show you here. It's just one that I put together. You can see here, now this is the back of it, okay? It's just two strips of wood glued together, that's all. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to be black just on the inside and then white along the very thin edge here, okay? Like this here, look. So the painting will sit flush inside this. There'll be a tiny gap with a little bit of black showing, and then you'll have the white outer edge. So I think with the window frame painted on the canvas as well, with this little gap, it will look really striking, I think. So I'm looking forward to painting this. This is going to be nice. So join me if you would like to see how to paint window frames going out, looking out into a sunset. This will be nice. Come on, let's have a bit of fun with this. Okay, my friends, let's go. Now, it's a big canvas. I think it's 30 inches by 20. It's fairly big. It's a nice sizable canvas, so there'll be two parts in this. I'll paint the sunset first, and well, try and get most of it painted, and then we'll go on to part two for the window frames. So I'm going to tell you what colours I have. Naples yellow, titanium white, cadmium yellow pale, magenta, phaylo blue, lamp black, burnt sienna, and cadmium red. I think they should do us. Nice colourful palette, and there's a reference photograph. You should see it just there somewhere. Now, I think I painted this one before a long time ago, but I think with the window frames this is going to be very eye-catching because you have the dark of the sky against the white window frames looking out. I think this is going to be really eye-catching. So let's try it and see how it goes. I'm going to take some masking tape and mask off my horizon line. Let me just have a look here now. I'm thinking, looking at the photograph, the reference photograph, it's fairly low down, isn't it? So I'm going to go, let me pick a point now. I want a nice big sky on this. Perhaps around here somewhere. I think that looks pretty good. A little bit of a bend on the tape there now, but that's fine. Just try and get it as straight as you can. We will kind of fix this as we're going anyway. There's my masking tape on. No need for sketching in this, I don't think. So let's just grab our brushes and start painting. I have some thinners with linseed oil. Okay. Now what I might do, because this is a big canvas, I might give this a slight coat of linseed oil. I'm going to grab some tissue. Okay, a little bit of tissue. Now, we don't even have to use linseed oil on its own. I could just use some thinners. This is turpentine with a little linseed oil poured in and shaken up. It just makes a lovely thinner. It's nice and oily. So let's take some of this and let's just dampen the canvas very quickly. I'm not soaking the canvas now. It's just going to be damp, okay? And that will just help. That will help the paint just kind of move along much more easily. So just a very kind of a loose, quick coat of thinners on the sky. That's all I need. It's just to help. I only do this if I'm doing a big sky like this, all right? Now, I'm going to take a large brush. This is a 3/4 inch flat, soft, synthetic. I have a slightly bigger one as well, which I could use. This might actually be better. Any large brush you have will do. I use flat brushes, okay, my friends? All flat, soft brushes. Let's take a look at the sky. Okay. I'm going to start with this very bright orangey yellow down at the bottom, just to get this out of the way. I don't think I'll dampen my brush because this is already wet. So maybe just take some cadmium yellow and some cadmium red. Give it a quick mix up here. We have a nice rich orange there now, don't we? Let's just take a quick look at this. Okay. Now, I think I'll add a tiny touch of thinners to this on my brush, because that's quite thick paint. A tiny bit of thinners on your brush, a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, and I'm just going to pop that in there. Now, although I oiled my canvas, it's still kind of quite dry, I'll be quite honest. I think it's because these colours are very translucent. So I may need to add some white into these just to get them thick. So let's get some more cadmium red, some more cadmium yellow, a little bit of thinners on the brush, just slightly damp, and maybe a little hint of Naples yellow, look, because that will thicken the colour up really nicely, I think. And I'm just going to pop that colour across. I'm not going all the way across. Also, I did prime this canvas. I gave it 2 coats of a water-based undercoat. Just a normal, standard, white, water-based undercoat. That's all I did, okay? Nothing else. And now with this, I don't need to go around the edges because my frame will be coming up. I'll have a thick white frame just around the top or the sides of the canvas, if you know what I mean. So we don't have to go around the edges with this. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to start taking some cadmium red now and some magenta. And I'm going to start adding a little of that in here and there, just to get that nice and red off the sides. So you can see it goes over to kind of a pink, then a mauve. So I'll go more into magenta with Naples yellow. And you can see it's a soft pink, you see that? Okay, now I might add a little bit of that up here as well. And also, I think I may have to get some linseed oil on the canvas because that thinners I just used, it seems to be kind of soaking through a little bit more than I wanted to. Does that make sense? So I'm just going to get some linseed oil, which you can get in any art store, okay? You can just pick a can of this up in any art store. It's just linseed oil for artists. Let's take a bit of that and pop a little bit of that on. I think that should give us a bit more coverage. I'm just oiling. You could use liquid clear for this now as well, if you like, all right? It's the very same thing. I just find the linseed oil, it has a little bit more of a drag on the canvas compared to liquid clear. So it seems to work just that little bit better. Right, let's carry on. I'm going to start putting in some blue now, all right? So I'm going to switch brushes, nice clean brush. I'll dampen that ever so slightly. Let's take some phaylo blue and some white and then some magenta. So we have a nice, it's kind of a rich blue, but it's a warm blue. It's almost like a pinky blue, if you understand what I mean. Nice thick colour, look, nice and thick. Don't be shy with the paint. Let's have a look. Now you see that's going along much, much nicer since I put linseed oil on the canvas. It's just a lovely soft, look at that, that's lovely. That's going right across there now very nicely. I'm going to pop some blue in. I'm basically looking at the photograph, and wherever I see a bit of blue, I'm going to pop this little bit of colour in. There's a little bit up here as well, look, we can pop some up there. And you can also notice the colour is quite thin, isn't it? It's not a very thick mix. Thin layers and build up, that's what I tend to do. Okay, that's not bad. I leave that like that. You can see we have our yellow, our blues, and after this then it's just the cloud, all that lovely cloud. So I'll clean this brush. I'm going to use this brush now because this is nice. I like the softness of this brush. So I'll continue with this brush. I think we should get all of this lovely rich clouding up on top, and we leave all this stuff until the last, okay? Let's get some phthalo blue and magenta. It's a very reddy purple, isn't it? It's very kind of a pinky purple, so a lot more magenta, I would say. You could even take a hint of cadmium red as well, if you like. Now it probably looks black on the palette, but it's not. It's just a very deep purple. You see that? Plenty of magenta. There's probably more pink than blue in this. So let's have a look at this now. And remember, I want to keep this nice and dark and rich, so that our window frames will really stand out nicely against the background. So let's get this nice rich bluey purple in here, and let's just start putting in clouds. Look, I'm just going to soften them like this. Around in little circles, I find, is probably the easiest way of creating nice rough looking clouds. You see that? Now as this comes down, you can see it goes into a lovely pinky colour. So we simply just take more magenta in the mix. Now it's much more pinky, you see. And we go across up here, cutting off that blue sky, you see what I mean? And just leave it dance around. Just simply let your brush dance around on the canvas. So as it comes down, then again, more magenta and a hint of Naples yellow. And that softens the magenta, gives it this kind of a soft pinky colour. You see that? And there's a very good reason now why you need to put a lot more pink into this as it comes down, because you see this lovely orange colour. If I put a bluey shade into that, it's going to go green and muddy. So you always, when you're going from a purple down to an orange, always add plenty of pink just where it meets the orange. So I'm taking plenty of magenta and a hint of Naples yellow. And you see this soft colour then will soften into the orange lovely, look. No muddy colours, just lovely soft pinky hues. And oranges, mixing with the orange then, and it's getting nice and soft. There, you see that? So now it's not getting really muddy, is it? It's just a nice soft colour. And you can soften it across then, look. And we'll bring it up into that purple. It's all about mixing colour on the canvas, if you know what I mean. Now, as it comes across, you can see there's a lovely orange here. So I need to put a very rich pink just there. So cadmium red and magenta. I'm going to put a nice rich colour just here, look. And that'll give me a nice base for my yellows later. So I'm not worried then about them going green or muddy or brown or anything like that. It's just going to be a nice simple transition. So this now is going to be our big bank of dark cloud coming up here. So I'll start off with this kind of pinky colour, you see, like that. And I'm going to kind of soften it through here and there. Bring a couple up like that as well, look. Make a nice little angle. You see that angle we have on the cloud coming down? That's really eye-catching for me. I love that. So I'm going to keep that angle going up. I'll bring this down a small bit, just here. And then go up here into that. Again, adding maybe a touch of cadmium red into this dark bluey colour here. And you can see now I'm just mixing all these colours kind of together slightly. I'm not overdoing it with the mixing, but just a little bit. I'm softening them all together. My main goal here is really just covering the canvas, covering that white of the canvas. That's my goal at the moment. So I'm thinking right now, just get that white canvas covered. After that, I can add more colour. I'm going to go much bluey up on this side. It's almost like a blacky blue, isn't it? So I'll just fill that in completely. And this now, my friends, will be kind of the early stages as well. We have a lot of stuff to go over this in terms of hues, shading and all that kind of stuff. So we still have a lot to do. Now, a little bit more cadmium red in it just for here. And we can bring one or two down at an angle as well, like that. Look, see? Little clouds flicking along. Okay, at this stage, I think I'll soften all of this together. Grab your soft makeup brush, and I'll start at the oranges down here, look, so I don't want to make them too muddy. So I'll start with the orange colours to keep them clean, and then we'll go up into all this colour up here and soften away those brush strokes. I'm just flicking left to right, look. Soften them away, and you can still see we have a little bit of texture. You see, we have the shape of clouds going on. So I'm not softening completely away, if you understand what I mean. And I'm going at an angle. I want to keep these coming down at an angle like that, just to keep that direction of the cloud coming downwards at a slight angle. Soften these into the blue gently. Now, I'll stand back and just take a fast look at that. And that's not bad. Not bad at all. I am fairly happy with that. Next, I'm going to start darkening all up here. I want to get this real dark, rich colour going across. You see that band of dark colour we have going across up there? I'm going to start that. Let me get some magenta on my palette. Okay. And we will mix some magenta with phaylo blue. Okay, equal amounts, and then a touch of black. Now the black will really darken this. Look at that. It's a blacky, kind of a pinky shade. It's a very deep, rich, blacky, purpley colour. I'm just going around in circles, popping that in. I find going around in little circles like that, it gives you probably the best cloud shape. So it gives you that kind of puffy cloud look. And while we have the colour then, you see you can add more little darks here and there. So just a case of keep going. Just keep going like this. I'm going to kind of break off here and there now as well, with little bits. Okay, you can see the way it just sort of, there's little bits of those dark colour dancing around as well. Now let's make a bit more. Again, phaylo blue, magenta, lots of magenta, and a touch of black. It's a real blacky purple. And let's go over here and do this side. And I'm not kind of copying the reference photograph now exactly either. I don't want it to be exactly the same. I'm just kind of copying colour wise. I'm copying the colours that I'm seeing, that's all. That's the eye-catching part of this painting for me, is those dark, rich colours up here. They're really going to stand out nicely with the white frame of the window looking out. So it's just the colours. I'm not really bothered too much about, you know, getting the shapes and stuff exactly right. Just once you're happy enough with it, that's all that matters. Okay? So we just keep going now like this. Lots of magenta, lots of blue, hint of black, and come down here and add a bit there as well. You see it's nice and dark here, and it transitions into a very rich orange just here, doesn't it? So I'm not going too far in. I'll take more magenta, I think, and give it a bit more pink down here. And then it's going to soften Soften downwards, you see? Like that. Okay, let's see now. Let's take some black and lots of blue. Maybe a touch of magenta as well. I want to get a very rich dark as well, just around up here. And another bit here. And maybe just here as well. Okay, I think I'll stop at that. I'm going to clean my brush very well. Dip it in, dry it. Dip it in, dry it. That's the way I clean my brushes. I dip it into my thinners and just soak it on the tissue. I do not swish and swirl my brush around because that just destroys your thinners right away. So I'm just going to keep going now with this. I just need to give my brush a good clean, get lots of that blue out. So I leave that to one side. I go back to my other brush now, which I was using with the orange on it, okay? I'm going to go into magenta, and a hint of yellow. And maybe a touch of Naples yellow as well. Now, this kind of pinky shade, I'm going to pop this in over here. Come down by the yellow. And what I want to do is soften this pink up into the blue as well. So you see this blue colour here? I want to soften that across there as well, so I don't contaminate my yellow later on. So I just come across like that. I'm softening it up into the blue ever so gently and down into that yellow. Now I'll come over to the left hand side. I'm just going to brighten that with a little bit of that colour as well. Just want to brighten it ever so slightly. Okay, so at this stage now we're kind of coming on pretty nice, I think. What I'll do, I suppose, is soften some colours together again. Again, I start with the lighter colours, the yellows, keep them nice and clean, and then go into the pinks, and now we'll go up into these darks, and I'm going to swish them around in circles. Look, I want to create that effect of the sky kind of getting very angry, so to speak. So I'm going to soften it like this, look. There we go. The sky is getting very angry. We're about to have a very heavy shower of rain, aren't we? So let's make that effect. Let's get the sky very angry. I must stand for a moment so I can see properly. And let's just soften. You can soften whichever way you like. You can just go straight across from left to right, or you can do this. Completely up to yourself. But I find doing this, you see, it just kind of moves the paint around to make it nice and rough looking and natural. Okay, now how's that? That's not bad now, is it? Let me just give my soft blender brush a clean. A lot of people have been asking me how I clean my blender brushes as well. What I simply do is I dip it into my turpentine very quickly, like that, and then just swish it around with some tissue. That pretty much cleans the brush very, very well. But just keep going with fresh tissue until it's completely dry. You want this to be completely dry, okay? Give it a swish around just like that. Don't be afraid. You won't damage the brush at all. There. Now, back to normal. Look lovely and clean again. It's time to start working on yellows. and putting in a little more detail, just, you know, here and there. A little kind of, some little clouds popping through. I'm going to go to a smaller flat brush, okay? A nice simple flat brush. And let me see now. I need some Naples yellow. I prefer topping my palette up as I go like this, rather than putting huge mounds of paint on my palette, because you're left with a lot of paint at the end of a picture, you know. You're left with huge mounds of paint, which you can't really use unless you're careful with them. I prefer to top it up as I'm going. Okay, I'm going to start putting in some darks over here. I'm going to just dampen my brush very gently. And I'm going to mix a very rich dark pinky colour. Let's take some magenta. And there's a hint of blue in that. So it's like a pinkish mauve-y type of colour. I'm going to pop, let's just have a look at that now. I'll pop that in here first. Do you know what now? I think I need a slightly larger brush, just to get a bit more done a little quicker. Let's get some magenta and a touch of the bluey colour. So it's the colour I'm kind of creating is, it's a pinky mauve again, pretty much. So let's try it. Let's go for some magenta, tiny touch of blue, and maybe a hint of white just to thicken it up. And then we'll just keep adding colour to it. And I'm just going to create, you see that kind of colour over here we have, it suggests little clouds coming into the picture. So let's create that. Magenta, a little touch of blue. Some nice deep pinky colour. You see, I'm just popping a few in here and there. And then we come down. I'm going to add cadmium red onto my brush. And you see just down here, in the yellow, it needs to be kind of an orangey pink coming across. So I'm just going to come down here and swish that across. There's a few of these actually. No, cadmium red. And you can see, you notice, I'm only just kind of using little bits of paint on my brush. I'm not overloading my brush with paint because it gets very messy if you do that, I find. So I'd rather go with little bits of paint on my brush than to be really adding loads and loads and loads of paint. It's just, the canvas gets too messy if you do it like that. So I prefer to add little bits like this at a time as I go. I just think it just makes it much easier. Now, cadmium red, little yellow, and I'm going to just kind of come across, just warming it around the centre while kind of adding some darker shades at the same time, if you kind of understand what I mean. You see what I mean? It's just adding warmer colour, but bringing out some darks. Now, let me see, let me take a look around. Let me take a look around. I'm leaving that bright yellow until the very end. I don't want to go at that for a while. All this area. I'm going to leave this till the very end. When I'm happy with everything else then, I'll start my yellows. So what I'm going to do is start adding some more rich orange up around here. And again, I'm taking some cadmium red and lots of cadmium yellow. But there's a lot more red in this, okay? There needs to be for that blue, so we don't end up with muddy shades. So that's even still not red enough. Bit more cadmium red. So the orange then is it's a very reddy orange. Does that make sense? So we start with that colour. And because we started with that colour, it then allows us to add more yellowy colours on top of that. So if you go directly in there with a very bright yellowy orange, it's going to go muddy immediately. So I always start with a much more red shade of orange, okay? Almost red on its own, because the red in the paint will blend much easier with the pinks and the blues. And I'll go over here, I'll pop a little bit in there as well. So I'm basically, what I'm doing now is I'm setting up for the highlights later. I'm just getting it ready for highlights. A little bit there as well. See, I'm bringing that orangey, rich orangey colour across. And up here, this is the important part, okay? I'm going to explain to you why. I need to add, because I'm going into the purples, so I need to add a nice pinky colour into that. So I don't want any yellow on my brush whatsoever for this. I'm going to take some magenta and a touch of cadmium red and a hint of Naples yellow. The Naples yellow will just lighten it ever so slightly. So now I can go into my purples, look, and it's not going messy or anything like that. And you can soften in that orange into the pink very easily. Does that make sense? Again, up here. A little bit more of that, a little bit more red. I'm going to soften around that orangey colour up into the sky with that pink. Now, you might find this a little complicated to kind of grasp, but once this is all softened together, you'll see what I mean, okay? Let's take some magenta and some Naples yellow. And this lovely soft pink colour, I'm going to come up with this, okay? So you can see the colours we painted earlier, they're not the finished kind of colours, so to speak. We will be putting more on top of them. So slightly warmer, lighter colours on top. So for instance, this lovely pink here now, look. I'm going to soften this lovely pink through here and there. A light soft pink up into the darker colours here and there, flicking the brush very gently. And then clean your brush. Because you've picked up blues, you want to clean your brush again. And let's go again. Again, pink, Naples yellow. And come down here and lighten this side. And we can go up here into these, just creating little bits of light on some of these clouds down here. This is so much fun to try something different like this. It really is. So a little bit of light under those clouds there perhaps. A little bit of light down here. Just to create some direction. Okay. I'm going to soften these colours together again. Very gently around the orange. Just soften the pink into the orange and vice versa. And then we go up and we soften. Just soften some of those colours together. Very gently. Okay. Nice and soft. Just taking a little care. There. Now, how's that? So we're beginning to, we're working it away. We're getting our different blocks of colour in. Now I think we need to add a little bit of light blue up here. So I'm just going to go for a small little flat brush, any little flat brush that you have. Let's take some phaylo blue and white. I want to put a nice rich blue just here and there. Look, in between those clouds. Just to show and kind of show off a little bit of blue sky popping through the cloud up there. Okay? And I will do the same down here. And just leave it kind of dart around here and there, you see? It's really just to brighten that background a little bit. I'm just kind of letting this dart around. Then I go for a stronger blue over here. Just pop a little darker blue in, just here and there, look. I just want to really create some drama on this side. I'll stop at that. You see how loose that was now? I was just very kind of loose about it. Then let's just soften that again with our soft brush. I'm just kind of swishing the brush around in very random directions. Look, soften it in. Then down here, I'm just going to very gently soften it as well. Okay, and that's not bad now, is it? Now the fun starts, my friends. Now the fun will start. Let's get cracking with this yellow, all these lovely yellows down here. Let's get this nice and, you know, get our teeth into it. I'll just clean my brush, my small flat brush that I had. I'm just going to clean all the pink off of my brush here. I do beg your pardon, if you don't mind. Let me just get this nice and clean. I'm going to go and start putting in some rich oranges again. Nice rich oranges. Let's get some cadmium red on our palette. And I try not to overthink this when I'm painting like this. I try not to overthink it and get everything looking exactly like it should be. I just try to create a nice warm impression of something that I'm painting. I never really try to make a mirror image of something. I'm just popping a little bit of this cadmium red now, strengthening the colours down here. Just make them that little bit stronger. Let it soften away. We have lots of these little pieces coming over. Now I also have burnt sienna on my palette, and I have it there for a very good reason. I'm going to take some cadmium red and a little burnt sienna. And I'm just going to pop a little of that colour, a bit more burnt sienna. There's little hints of burnt sienna here and there in the sky. It's just to add a little touch of darkness to some of the clouds. So that small hint of sienna, it will really help. See, I'm just kind of dabbing a few clouds in here and there. See, just leave it soften across and down here like this, creating again some direction. It's for me all about this direction of the sky coming down at an angle. So I'll just once again, soften this. You see, you really have to keep softening and softening. That's, I find, the trick with this. Put on layers and soften and then go again, rather than trying to do it all at once. I find it's just much easier, and it's much easier to control your paint that you're putting on. There, okay? Now, that's absolutely fine. I'm now going to start going into a lot of warmer shades, yellower shades, okay? Clean the brushes. Now you can use a clean new brush for this if you like. I'm just going to use the one I have. Cadmium yellow. And there's a little red in there as well, a tiny bit, okay? let's grab this and let's just start putting some of this in. Now you could use cadmium yellow on its own, look, and just put it straight in. Because we have a lot of orange on there already, it will be absolutely fine. Let's come over here, add some there, look. Make that nice and rich and bright. And we could add some up here. You see, I'm just putting on lots of thick paint on its own. No thinners in this. Lots of thick yellow. And just kind of scraping it up at an angle here and there, you see. Creating the lightness in the sky. Just that little hint of rich yellow here and there. Just kind of popping in and out of the clouds. Now especially where the sun is. The sun is kind of pretty much center, slightly off center, isn't it? So I'm going to pick a point now for my sun, and I'm just going to put that rich yellow right there. The next thing I'm going to do is take some cadmium yellow with some red again, and I'm going to just go up here and start adding little bits of that lighter shade here and there on the edges. And I want to create that lovely glow of the cloud up there. So for that, I'm going to grab some cadmium yellow, a little cadmium red, and some white. Just a little white, that's all. And I want to just create, you see, that little bit of a glow just in the clouds there. And then another layer in underneath. But do be careful. Be very careful, you don't want muddy colours again, okay? So a little bit more of the red. And then I'll soften again, very gently, into the blue. Very gently. Now I might have to put more pink into this as well. If it's not softening properly, if you find you're getting muddy colours, just pick up a little bit of pink and add more pink into it. You see, I'm just kind of softening along the edge. That's the early stages. This is still very early stages now of that area. So don't think it's finished. It's not finished. Let's go along and soften everything along here. Then I'm going to start putting in the sun. And when I get the sun in, I'm going to pick cadmium yellow first. And let's go again slightly off center. Let's just go around here, okay? And then let's take a bit of white. Pop a little bit of white in as well. Just white on its own, because you're going to mix with the yellow that's already there, you see. So just a hint, you could even take a hint of yellow as well, look, if you want. So let's just go like this, up there at a slight angle. Okay, coming together slowly, bit by bit. And so Rome wasn't built in a day, so it takes time, doesn't it? I'm just taking my time. I want to build up the layers nice and slowly as I go. There's one thing I do want to do, and that is to soften this area here. I want to very gently soften this. Just soften it out ever so gently. I might take a bit of pink and just soften a bit of pink into it. It doesn't seem to have a kind of a hard edge, so to speak, so I just want to soften it ever so gently. And then I think I'll just take some cadmium yellow with some white and add a hint of brightness to this. Just being careful with the blue. I don't want to go down into my blue too much, but I think it needs just that little bit of highlight. You see there, just catching the highlights, catching the sun, so to speak. And then perhaps some cadmium yellow with white, just for a final flick of light. And again, back to the soft brush, soften these away. I'm being careful, I'm not softening them into the blue, not too much anyway, just very gently going over the edge and softening them up into all that lovely colour. Okay. That's not bad at all, my friends. Now I'm going to use my palette knife for the sun. I'm going to grab my palette knife and I'm just going to I will really want to add some nice thick paint for the sun around here, okay? That'll give us a little bit of texture. And it'll just help it stand out a bit more. Then take a little bit of white and cadmium yellow. And pop a little bit of that. Let's find the sun now. Where's the sun going to be? It's going to be right around here, isn't it? So who said you can't use a palette knife? It's all about trying different things, isn't it? That's what I think anyway. We're up here with the palette knife as well. Look, add some texture to the painting. Then I might just grab some white on its own. Add plenty of white in here. It's just about catching the eye. It doesn't have to look like a sun at all. It can be just a very bright spot on your canvas. You see? That's all it needs to be, a very, very rich, bright spot. And then maybe just a little white on its own, somewhere down there. And I will leave this dry now and add more to it as well. But, you know, as we're here, I think it'd be nice to try it, just so you can see. And how was that? Oh, I don't think that's too bad at all. I think that's quite nice. I'm going to use my palette knife and make a little bit of orange and just add a little bit of texture over here as well, look. Just to kind of add texture between the clouds as well. Maybe grab a bit of yellow. See, that's the nice thing about using a palette knife. You can really grab paint and add lots of thick texture to a painting with your palette knife as well. It's very, very versatile like that. It's very useful. Okay. And I'm going to stop at that, I think. I might call this part one finished. We are 48 minutes in. Now that wasn't bad for 48 minutes, was it? I just need to do one more thing. I'm going to add some pink up here. We got all this done in 48 minutes. I don't think that's bad at all, do you? For such a big canvas, that's not bad, I must say. I'm just softening these in here a bit more with some pink, just so they don't stand out too much, if you understand what I mean. And then we go back in with our blender brush. and create that nice little direction up there. There. That's a bit better, my friends. Do you think? And I might just add a bit more pink as well over towards the right of that. Here. Maybe a hint of the orange. I just maybe think continue this over just slightly so it doesn't stop completely in one go. So just kind of bring it across ever so gently. And then again, soften. I think that maybe suits it a little better, doesn't it? It's more gradual. And I'm also thinking, maybe grab a touch of yellow, and just where the sun is, could add a bit of yellow into these clouds as well. Just a hint. Just the slightest little hint, and soften them upwards. Is that better? I'm going to call this part one finished, my friends. So let me just turn the camera, and I also need to charge my camera as well because my camera is low on battery power. So there, how's that? That's quite nice so far, isn't it? Will I zoom in slightly for you? Give you a proper look. There. I don't think that's too bad. I'll be back with part 2, and I may even have to do a part 3. We'll see how we go. There's no rush whatsoever, is there? Let's take our time and do it nice. I don't want to be rushing through this just to get it finished. I want to make a really nice painting, and we'll frame it as well. I'll show you when I'm framing it, and we'll see the finished painting framed and hanging, hopefully. I'll be right back, my friends, with part 2. I'm going to let this, when this sunset is finished, I'm going to let this dry for 1, maybe 2 days before I do the window frames in the painting. But for you, it'll be just part 1, 2 and 3, if you understand what I mean. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll see you very soon, and thank you for subscribing. Thank you to my patrons. Thank you so much for your support over there as well. If you do want to pop over to Patreon, take a look just to see what's there. Lots of extra tutorials, in-depth tutorials, and you're supporting a good cause as well. So I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll be right back. I'll see you very soon.